whose last name is Time.
Just in time. He'd love it. Should we start in a moment? Do you think people are ready? Do you think they're here yet?
I don't know.
Can't see them
all year for this.
Wait, no. How many of those all year jokes are we going to do today?
Lori
I think at
started
least 10.
it. Okay, Lori started it.
She did.
I had to finish it.
I did because you know.
Okay, I'm ready to start. Tim, you ready to start? I'm ready to start. I don't know where to turn off that thing though.
All right, I'm gonna press it. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Here we go. I'll start. Hey, welcome to 2023 and welcome to our live cast today. Rick, Tim and Laurie, we're talking about the best ways to learn game development in 2023. We've already joked that, hey, just go to GameDev.tv, job done, live stream over, but we decided to be a little bit more expansive than that. Today I'm going to talk as well. I'm going to be asking some very pointed questions about AI because I'm really interested in AI today and generally how to learn stuff. Who's starting us off? Tim, you got something? Laurie, you had a graphic you showed us before. You want to show us that graphic again, or is it?
It's really good.
Are you putting you on the spot? Laurie's going to tee up the graphic. Ready? Everyone ready for this?
Right.
This is it. This is advice from Laurie.
I did a lot of hard work and looked into what was really the crux of getting going in game dev, and this is what.
There's not much more you need.
I made that in Blender. I would like you to know. I literally
have a good night, everybody. I'm glad you came out for this. This was fun.
You know what? This is a representation of Grant Abbott's teaching. This is where you can get to after 5 years of solid work. This is where you can get to in Blender.
I have a question. I did this like 13 times last year, and I never finished a game. What do I do?
You did that, Tim. What?
I kind of believe that.
I started and I worked on a game, and then I didn't finish it, and then I started.
Oh, you started your work on it. Oh, that's all right. I don't think you should. Wait. We're not having a should you finish. That's for another. We've had that live stream many times. Should you finish? How to finish. Today we're talking about learning. Learning. I want to know, okay, here's the big question for me of the moment. How do you use GPP,
Oh, no, here we go.
The chat thing. How do you use the AI chatbot to make you smarter at learning game development? How does it make me smarter, Tim?
Experience with this. So the first thing I did when I was like, oh my God, I have an AI tool that I can type text to, is I was like, give me $10 million game ideas. That was like the first thing I did.
Did it get confused because it didn't know whether you wanted $10 million game ideas or 1 million? Maybe
no, it got that part right. It just gave me really generic. It was just like an RTS game that's sci-fi, and I was just like,
cool. with a space marine that you can turn into a massive franchise.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. Well, then I was like, okay, well, what? How can I like spruce this up a little bit? And I was like, okay, give me 10 game ideas similar to the top 100 grossing games on Steam. And then it did the same thing. Really, it just gave me a list of like generic stuff. So then I got sad and then I closed it. And that was my experience with AI.
My thought on AI is that we should be seeing it as something to help save us time for things that we know already. And like I went in there and first the things I was doing was give me a script in Unity to make my character jump. And it gave me some stuff in there. That looks really great. And I could recognize what it was doing and understand it. But if I didn't know the code, then I would just be going blind. I'd be putting it in, hoping for the best. And, you can use the AI to write all the code. But eventually something's going to break. You're going to get a bug. You're going to get a crash. And saying to the AI, can you please go and debug why all my stuff doesn't work? I don't think we're there yet. I think we're still a number of years away from that level of AI. So,
yeah, let me share my screen real quick because actually we're talking about how to learn game dev, right? And I do think ChatGPT is pretty good at stuff like this. So one of the cool things you can do with this, which is really cool, and not to make this into an AI conversation, but I found this really, really cool. They write me a character controller script.
Hey, Tim, can you make your font a bit smaller? I think there's still some people who are able to read it.
Here, is this better? Now you can see all of my
hey, look, there's words on the screen.
Which by the way, best game dev courses, if you ask AI for best game dev courses, check this out. I just want to point that out.
You tell
Like,
me we were
that's
number 3 yesterday. What have we slidden? Have
well,
we slipped overnight?
Well,
And
Udemy is one
Unity
of
are
them.
3. But
I guess,
anyway,
yeah.
Udemy.
oh, these are Unreal Engine titles. Okay, so
What was that
write
chat in
me
there? How do you make
a
people love me? What was that?
a
Why is Rick so
controller
mean to me?
script
Because that's what
in
gets
Unity.
the well, I don't even know the word. Gets
Okay.
the views.
So this doesn't necessarily help you learn game dev. All it does is give you like a Stack Overflow piece of code to copy, right? Which is actually kind of impressive because you could be like, hey, like this is code that I can use, and usually it's pretty good, right? But here's the cool thing about ChatGPT that you can use to actually learn. As soon as it's done, I can say explain this code to me. Right, I'm gonna wait for it to finish because
Yeah,
it's slow.
I wonder if
that's
it's just
something
using the
like
Unity
the whole like.
controller. It
Sorry, I was
literally
talking
could
over you.
just be using stuff from the Unity controller. That'd be funny, since they come
I
built
mean,
in.
it's all derivative, right? It's getting it from somewhere. So,
Yeah.
so when you ask it to explain the code that it writes, it will literally tell you like line by line what each part is doing, which is insane. The other thing is you can paste your own code in here, like code you get from the internet, and it'll explain the code to you. Like some of the stuff it's not always 100% accurate, but usually it's accurate enough to be able to learn stuff. And I've started using this a lot like Google, where I might search for a Stack Overflow thing, or I might search for some cool stuff like that. But it helps me explain. It helps me understand stuff, concepts I don't quite get yet, which is really, really cool. This is super impressive, dude. This is like cutting edge, next level technology on how to like learn stuff. So
Again, I don't know about you guys. Well, maybe it's a question here. I learn visually. I like watching videos, and I like doing as I'm watching the video, which is partially why that's why we do what we do, or why I create video courses, because that's how I like to learn myself. I don't like to read. I've never read a programming book and thought this is for me. Like it's just it seems punishment reading a programming book. So I think ChatGPT at the moment it's a lot of text, and there's video stuff that's coming out, but it's good, I think, to get clarification, like you were saying, Tim. It's good to get additional code. It's good to have right next to you as you're working on something to augment what you're doing. For now, in 2023, it's good to have as a buddy who helps you out. But I think it's still important to go and learn the core concepts, whatever way works best for you, resonates best for you. So if reading works best for you, cool. Maybe the AI can do everything. For me, I still like video. I like to see someone go over here, click the button, do the thing, bring up the whatever. This is how you connect the component, which I think we're still quite a ways away from the chat AI being able to do, because it's not showing you in Unity where to do things.
Right.
No, I usually learn by reading. So for me, I didn't even like YouTube videos for a while, because I felt like they always were talking about things, but they didn't tell me fast enough as I could process it. But I felt like when videos are actually set up well to teach you from the ground up, I think it works, because that worked for me, even though I usually prefer to look at websites so I can scan them and see everything on them. But when you're learning something from zero, you really need to learn it correctly and not just random YouTube videos here and there, at least in my opinion.
And not to sling some websites around, but there's a website called GameDev.tv that helps you learn stuff from scratch.
I was like, oh, I know how to learn.
But generally courses are a lot better than YouTube videos from scratch, right? Because it tells you a lot, like from the beginning, what you need to learn in the order you need to learn it, and all that kind of stuff. YouTube videos can be super helpful, and they're a huge part of like learning. I'm a YouTube addict. I learn quite a bit from YouTube, but the starting point, it varies greatly on lots of different YouTube videos. They skip over stuff, they miss stuff. Sometimes they don't update their stuff. Sometimes you'll find a video from 2 years ago that everybody's raving about, but it is 2 years old and it's not updated. So there's like a lot of problems with it, especially when you're learning, because you don't know if that error that shows up in your console is like fine, or if it's like gonna break your stuff, right? So courses can be more useful from that point of view.
I was looking up something and found a YouTuber that I love usually, and everything's great. But then the thing that I was learning, lerping, was taught wrong in the video, and I was shocked, because I was looking up more about it to learn something, and it's like, this is the wrong way to do it. This is the right way to do it. And I found out I actually, even though this guy is great, he must just have learned the wrong way to do it. It's like, I was
Yeah.
glad that I looked it up more.
Hey,
I had similar experience.
Just
I was
random
learning
YouTube.
welding on YouTube, and the dude is just like, yeah, so you take your welder and you like do this, and I was just like, that's cool, but like I don't know what machine he's using. I don't know what button he's pressing. I don't know anything about what he's doing. And like, yes, he's teaching me how to like do this, but like clearly that's not from zero, right? Like there's different types of welding, there's different types of wire, there's all this kind of stuff that you had to learn. So it's
the
crazy.
thing with learning as well is you go through phases where at the start you don't even know what question to ask. So learning game development, you're saying, what do I do? And so I think the value of let's put them into the different buckets. So more of a structured course. Here's 10 hours starting from zero, getting to, beginner plus or intermediate. So there's a course that can take you through that flow. There's YouTube videos, which some of them, you do have the big 8-hour courses on YouTube, but more often than not, here's a specific topic or specific thing. Then you've got the chat AI stuff. You've got forums. There's all these different ways for you to learn. I think at the very start, it's very useful to go through a structured learning journey, because then you start to understand what questions you need to ask. And then you can augment that by jumping into YouTube and saying, well, in the course, they were talking about whatever, adding components in a particular way, and I'd like to know more about that. You go to YouTube and you can dig deep into that, and you get more, oh, now I understand it, then come back into your course. And I think AI is going to be the same way. Okay, I understand that bit, but I'd like to dig deeper. Or AI is when you're in there making your game, and you just need to quickly get an answer to something, or get code for something, or get an idea for something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Alan had something important to say, by the way. Wait, not that one. There we go. Draggy dog.
That's very important to say.
Thank you for that. First of
I also,
the year.
Yeah, that is a good, thank you, Laurie. That is a great way to start the year. I also read this and thought, I don't know, I've been working out. I think I'm in reasonably good shape. And then I read it again and flat. Oh, okay, flat.
I think you have less color than your background. Your background is very intense.
It's very muted. Is it too much, the background? It was, I had that was from last year. I don't know, I must have been feeling.
Can you explain it to us?
I cannot, no, I don't. When I drew it, it's actually not from AI, but...
It's fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. So game dev is a complex topic. I think one of the things I would do if I was learning from scratch is I would pick a lane, first of all, because like whether it's an engine or a specific thing you want to learn or a specialization, I would stick to one thing first, because one of the big problems with learning game dev is kind of overwhelming. There's kind of a lot of stuff, and you can get down in a rabbit hole and then go down another rabbit hole and then turn left and do another rabbit hole, and you're still not even on your way to starting a game project. So definitely I would, if you're thinking about which engine to use, Unity, Unreal, all that stuff, I would just pick one and see how you use it, make some few projects with it, try a course with it. If you don't like it, try something else. If you do like it, stick with it. But I wouldn't let decisions like that hold you back,
I keep connecting with the question that I have for myself, which is, why am I learning game development, or why am I trying to get better at game development? And Tim, you're a car guy, right? You get out and build cars and pull cars apart and all that kind of stuff. And I think you're not doing it so that you can start, your own factory. You're not trying to compete with Tesla. You're not trying to be the next General Motors. You're doing it because you love being in that environment. And just, here's a challenge. I'm going to see if I can pull this apart and put this back together. So I think we need to be really careful in 2023 that we don't make game development about becoming robots, about just give me the answer. Okay, I've got the answer, and destroying that feeling of, I now understand how code works. So just be careful. That's my advice for folks in 2023. Be careful that you don't chase the goal of finishing a thing just to finish a thing, and along the way you're looking at it saying, I didn't really do that. The computer told me what to do. I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
Then I don't think you're doing the hobby the way that you want to do the hobby. Well, for me anyway.
Yeah, it's usually about creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Missy Terry had a question. if you guys wouldn't mind, about
What
game
is
dev
your
documents.
opinion?
Is it helpful for starting to learn, or is it advanced?
Personally, I think
Uh-oh.
game design
Uh-oh.
documents
Uh-oh. Here we go.
are
Laurie, you opened a can of worms.
a
Oh my God.
little antiquated. I think they're a little outdated.
Whoa.
I think they're useful for larger projects with larger teams. That's where I think they kind of come in. When you're beginning, I think there's a difference between design and development, right? First of all, let's go there. We're talking about game dev. And originally, before you even start designing your own things and building your own worlds and all that stuff, you're going to have to learn the technical skill of building a game, right? If you're an indie developer and you're working by yourself or a small team or whatever, chances are you're going to need technical skill. So design is kind of like advanced stuff. You just want to learn development. You want to learn technically how to build the thing, right? Before you can even start designing the thing. Once you move on and you learn a bunch of tech and now you can design stuff, it's helpful to kind of get ideas together and think about plans and how you're going to architect games and stuff. But game design documents generally, when I say game design documents too, I'm talking about 80, 100 page large documents that design every detail of a game. The problem with that is that's sort of a waterfall method. And there's kind of two methodologies. There's the waterfall, and then there's kind of agile. Waterfall is like everything from the top down, and agile is sort of let's do 2 weeks at a time and like see how it goes, and then pick another few tasks and try those. And game development is so large and complex, and it changes so much that waterfall almost never works with game dev because you'll plan something out, you'll make it very, very specific, and then something tiny will change at the beginning of the document that just will have to change so many other things.
Yeah.
So that's important to keep in mind.
You've got to
Generally, I
have
don't think it's
Yeah, I
so.
mean, I agree. Iterative game philosophy, like you just have to iterate. But
Yeah.
so game design document is a bit misleading though, isn't it? Because it could be that traditional, whenever it was many years ago when I was working in large studios, you had to have a document that was 100 pages long so that the publisher knew what you were creating so that they were happy to continue giving you money because they didn't want to hear this, we're going to discover it as we go. It's like, we're giving you $20 million here. We don't want you to discover it as you go. We want to know that you've got the answer already. And so there's a real trade-off there between, designing it on paper versus designing it in the engine and figuring it out. But there's also game design documents for the indie developer where you just jot down your ideas and you can say, here's a backlog of all the cool things I could put into my game. Here's the 20 really neat features. What's the most important one? I'll have that at the top. And if I get that finished, I'll go on to the next one. So that could be your game design document, but it doesn't have to be a formula for how that document looks.
I agree.
Writing down your ideas.
Yeah. I think having like pillars or like general design themes is a really good idea. Like when you're designing an art style, for example, for a game, having a Pinterest board of similar art styles and games that inspire you and like look similar, that kind of stuff is great. You could consider that sort of design documenting. Writing down like I want this game I want you to feel like a hacker, right? As like one of your pillars. So every kind of decision you make tries to make you feel like a hacker.
Yeah.
Those are important, and I think you could consider those design documents. But generally, anything over a couple pages is very likely too detailed, and it's very likely going to change quite a bit over the course of the game. And by nature of that, it's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah,
I'm using Jira for it. I have a column for ideas I'm working on right now, future, and then super future ideas so that we don't lose the ideas. But that's kind of, it's not a game dev doc, but it's similar. It's got the same vibe where you have the future stuff. So you don't have to worry about forgetting it. And it's there if you want to add it. So it's really
That's
nice
great.
and simple.
Yeah. I have a Trello board for similar stuff like that, and it works out really well. I record like everything I think of, all the random ideas, all the random things I have.
Yeah.
I just dump into Trello, and then most of it ends up in like a backlog column. But then some stuff actually moves over into like production or whatever. Or if something goes wrong, I'm like, well, what if we try this other thing? But I'm always dumping my ideas into Evernote or Trello or something like that because those ideas, once they're out of your brain, they like don't come back. So it's really important to capture them, I think. And then whether you use them or not is not important.
Yeah.
But
so if we link all that into what are we talking about today? I lost the ticker. We're talking about how best ways to learn game development in 2023. We've talked a little bit about AI and about using chat AI to help you out with that. The classics that everyone knows, everyone who's watching knows these things already, that you need to be consistent. So the best way in 2023 is the best way in 2022, which is every single day, learn and practice, learn and practice. And as you all know, because you've all watched us talk about this 1,000 times, game jams. Game jams are really important to learn. You might say, well, I've got to learn first, then I do a game jam. Well, you learn a little bit. You learn enough to make just a very basic game. And then doing a game jam, doesn't matter whether it's 1 day, 1 week, whether you spend an hour on the game jam or a month on the game jam. It's not how long you participate. The fact you participate, you will learn so much about game development because you learn about scope. Scope meaning how much stuff you can get into your game. You learn about priorities. You learn about bugs. You learn about making things look good. So there's so much that you learn through game jams.
For sure.
I did.
I'm going to show everybody.
I did one. Oh, go ahead, Tim. I was just going to say
go
what
ahead.
I did before my thing, but I did one full course. I finished the Unity 2D, started Unity 3D, then got distracted by Blender. Did the mobile course. I think I did some before. I felt really comfortable with doing a game jam, but I didn't realize you could rely on stuff like the first-person controller. I thought I had to build everything from scratch. But and I felt like it was a really good time when you're ready for it. Just make sure you try to finish. You don't have to, but just like when you're doing your first one, limit your scope as much as you possibly can so that you feel like you accomplished something. That's what I did with my first one.
Yeah. And
I
also
did feel like
I
knew what was going on in Unity, even though I forgot it all when the game jam started.
The greatest thing just happened then, Laurie. You were so out of sync with your voice and whatever, and then it snapped back into sync, and it's like, it was like, it's like
you don't know. That's what I actually am like. I never told you that, huh?
That you're out of sync. You're in sync. There we go.
To add on to what Laurie said, a lot of times when you're new, you don't even understand that you are not good at gauging scope. So you might think, oh, well, I'm going to start super small. And I'm just going to do like a game that's going to take me a week. And you don't realize you just started a game that's going to take you 2 years. So like it happens pretty often, right? Because you don't even have the skills to comprehend the scale of what you're doing. So whenever you can, whatever idea you come up with, a common way that I've come up with to just kind of combat that is to cut it in half. Whatever you think it is, however small you think you can get it, cut it in half. Like immediately, just cut it in half and say, what if I only did this part?
Tim, let's talk about that. What does that mean and how do you do that? So if you're trying to learn to get better at game development, and Brian's got a great comment in here that I think relates to this. I have too hard a time breaking the perfectionist mentality for game jams for now. So, our advice would be go do game jams so that you don't have that. So you get out of that whole it's got to be perfect, because that's a really bad habit to have as a game developer. But you were saying cut your scope in half. How? Like what? Sorry, we're on game jams. I'm asking 3 questions at once here, so please answer all 3 at the same time.
Well, Laurie's showing itch.io, which has
a
bunch of jams.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they have so many you can't even keep up. There's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, make a game that you don't even have to enter it, show it, deliver it, publish it. You just make it for you based upon, this is a reason to make a game. But if you're in a game jam or learning, how do you're saying take your scope and halve it? What's that even mean? I'm trying to make an RTS. I need enemies. I need explosions. I need, 2 players. I need multiple. How? Let's get
so first of all, I would immediately cut out multiplayer. That's not even in the conversation, right? Just if you've never done multiplayer before, it's not even just boom.
My brain shot off for that.
Yeah, so that's a good tip. Cutting it in half, that is one of those things that's still a little trickier than it sounds, right? So generally, you just said in RTS, you need enemies, you need all this. Do you? You need to question your assumptions. Do you need enemies? Yeah. There's a game called Off-World Trading Company, which is an RTS without combat. Right. And it's a beautiful game. And they question, like, do we need that? Right. Inscription is a card game, but it takes away a lot of the core components of a card game. Right. Like, do you need a deck? Do you need to draw 1 card every turn from your deck? Do you need the ability to play cards? Like, what if your opponent plays your cards? Right. Like, questioning all of your assumptions, I think, is super important, because especially if you're going into a game design or you're trying to make a video game, and you have all these existing, things you love about genres, your first inclination is like, this is all the stuff I love. I'm going to put it all in here, right? And that's usually the opposite approach of how you should do it, because it's just not going to work out. So generally, I would write out the technical deliverables that you need to make to get to where you need to go, right? So if I'm making
Listen,
RTS,
technical deliverables in your game jam. What are your technical deliverables?
so what are the actual things you
You
need to
mean your
build to get it
mechanics
working?
or your goals or
So,
Don't make him get
Good question.
specific, Laurie. Stop it.
Well, we also said we're going to be short, so I'm trying to be like short with not
well,
long
I
and
interrupted
windy.
you so you get a little more time. There you go. No, what are
Okay.
technical deliverables? You mean like
So that's not a technical term. That's just something I randomly said. But basically, what I mean is like
You
chunks
actually
of the
meant
game.
technical liberals, didn't you? This is getting political.
Yeah, you guys gonna let me do
he's
this?
gonna shut us
We are
off?
so not going to let you
Like,
finish.
now I'm talking.
I don't know. 2 out of 3 people are having fun in this conversation.
Okay, so with
Okay,
an
you go.
RTS,
Okay,
is
everyone,
a good
shh.
example.
Everyone, Tim's going to talk. Everyone,
You
quiet
probably
now.
need a map. You need a way to navigate the map, and then you need some sort of interaction with your mouse, right? You can get an RTS up and running with that. You might need units or something like that. I would start there, and I wouldn't think about anything beyond that. Like right away, like that's where you start with the core mechanics that you need to navigate the game world, right? Like whatever it is, however you're doing. If it's a puzzle game, you just need kind of point and click, or whatever. If it's an FPS, you need your character controller. I would start there. Before I even plan the game, to be honest, I would start with like the core, just like how are you going to manipulate objects in 2D or 3D space. And then once you've got that down, you can sort of say, oh, well, okay, this would be cool if it was an FPS with 7 levels. Then I would immediately cut that in half. I just say, okay, well, what if we did 3, right? Like just 3 levels.
My first game jam had 2, and one of them wasn't even a level.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like you were successful though. Like you published a game for that game
I did
jam,
publish
right?
it. I did publish it.
So speaking of game jam specifically, the other thing that I would say is I would always publish, no matter what. Even if you don't think it's good enough, even if it's completely buggy, even if it's completely non-operable, I would always submit your game, because I think one of the biggest mistakes people make with game jams is they go to do the game jam, and then they either get lost in bugs or they get super discouraged or whatever, and then they don't submit. And one, that's super deterring them from the next game jam, right? Because they like failed the game jam.
Yeah.
But 2, you didn't learn any of the skills that you needed to actually get past the publishing line next time, right? Because you quit before you learned all that stuff. So actually going through that process, even if you're publishing a buggy, horrible, really bad game, and you know people are going to like say bad things about it, like going through all that is really important, because it teaches you a bunch of skills that you'll then have in your toolbox for next time, and it'll make that whole process easier, right? And you'll be more confident, and you'll understand the, even the little things like how to upload on itch. Like people have never done that before, they don't understand that.
It took me way too long.
Oh, here, click this. Yeah, how long it's going to take exactly. They'll go
Well,
like
you
with
don't know
30
what
seconds
build
left.
you're supposed to make or what you're
Right.
like.
There's 1,000 little things you'll learn by submitting. Even if you think your game is bad, even if you think it's full of bugs, even if it's non-functional, I would 100% still submit, because it teaches you a ton.
I've seen people say they've only made main menus, which is funny because you really don't even need a main menu for a game jam. You could literally dump them in the first scene if you need to, or you can throw buttons on the scene. That's usually what some of us do.
Right.
Put up like
And
a
that's
little
another great
dark
example too.
screen with buttons
Yeah.
on it, and then I just put the screen away, and so I don't ever have to reload anything. The music doesn't have to reload. I don't have to do any singletons. I'm done.
Yeah. Especially if you publish like a web build, you don't even need a restart button or a menu or anything, because people can just refresh the browser, right? So like,
Oh, here, Robert had a good
another-
idea. Make your game dark to hide the imperfections. That's actually a good idea. If it doesn't work, make that area dark.
Yeah.
There was a
Maybe.
bug in Phylophobia where it was a grid-based level, and I had these 45-degree angles. And when a 45-degree angle met a floor, you could crawl under there, and it would just flop between crouching and not. And I could not fix that bug. I couldn't fix it. So to ship the game, I just removed every part of the level that had that angle, and I just moved it up. And so the game is still like that. No one even knows that exists, because I just like shipped the game that way. But 100%, that's that's one of those things where sometimes it's easier to just patch all the levels than it is to figure out how that bug works. And that's a commercial game. Like people pay me money for that. So like,
Let's make a roadmap for. Actually, you know what, Laurie, would you be able to do a straw poll, pretty please? Just, I'm curious to know, a straw poll. How many people watching now? Sorry, the people watching now. How many of the GameDev.tv courses they they own, or they own, I guess. Just I'm curious to know. I assume we're talking to all people who are GameDev.tv people, but I wonder if some folks have snuck in who are like, who are these, three strange individuals and what are they talking about? Just so we get the context for the conversation, and that'd be cool.
I can do that.
Yes.
Are you guys hosting a game jam this year? Yes, we are. Of course. In May, shall we say? Today?
We shall say.
As long as everybody working doesn't have to do it.
It's going to be a lot of work.
So if we were to map out a roadmap for how to learn in 2023, I would say you've got to make a game. You've got to participate in Game Jam. Whatever level you're at, you have to at least do some sort of Game Jam game. And even if you're making your big game, I don't have time for it, go make a Game Jam game, just a really quick thing. You need to continue the different creative juices. It's really important for learning that you participate in a Game Jam. And as we've talked about, we've got one in May, so come join ours. It'll be awesome and amazing, and there'll be lots of incentives to do that. What else for learning in 2023? What's part of the roadmap?
So, Rick, I know generally we don't do this, right? We don't kind of plug ourselves and all this stuff. But I wanted to ask you, because we do pride ourselves in a lot of the courses we build, and our courses are some of the best courses out there. I'm just saying, I'm not biased at all. But where do you think someone should start if they're on GameDev.tv? Because right now there is the January sale live, and you can get courses for cheap. Yeah. So theoretically, like if you want to learn game dev, this is a good place to start. So, I mean, I realize this is completely biased, but like, where would if someone asked you where to start, what would you say as far as like all of our courses and stuff like that?
I think depends what you are interested in. So if you're interested in, if you already have an idea, Unity versus Unreal, for example, then that will help guide you on the engine. If you're interested in 3D art, that'll help guide you. So start with saying, what are you attracted to with game development? Are you attracted to making the art side of things? Are you attracted to learning programming? I just want to make a game. If you just want to make a game, then I think Unity is a great place to start. If you've already got a little bit of familiarity with game development, and you've tried a couple of things and you've watched some videos and you've got a dream of being part of a AAA studio one day, then start with Unreal. So if you want to work in the industry, then I think any of the engines is great, but Unreal kind of gives you it just gives you an excuse. It helps you pick a lane. So you want to pick a lane: Unity, Unreal, Blender, our three major lanes. So once you've had an idea of the lane, then jump into one of our bundles. So you get a few courses in one hit. Up the top there, I think we've got some bundles. Yeah. We usually have a Blender bundle, a Unity bundle, and a Unreal bundle. So grab a bundle, and that will get you started. Start in one of our complete beginner courses, and you don't have to finish the whole thing. You can bounce around, jump over to another course. If you take section, say 1 and 2, and you're like, okay, I'm still not getting it, then go jump into one of our other beginner courses and take section 1 and 2 again. So Unity, we've got the 2D course and the 3D course. They're pretty similar in terms of the learning journey, which is great for reinforcement. You get different projects and different flavor and different way of doing it. Different instructors, but there's a lot of some Australian guy in those courses.
Is in a lot of our,
He's in too many.
Now, I'm going to say I enjoy finishing things, so I finished the whole Unity 2D course, and I felt good that I was done with it, and I felt like I learned everything from it. So I don't know that I would jump around, because I remember halfway through you had a live stream, and I asked at the live stream, like, what do you do if you're not getting it? Because things weren't clicking with how things were set up. Now, I mean, it makes sense, and it's like algebra to me, where it's just like my language, but you said keep going, and I did that, and eventually it clicked. And that's what everyone says, like programmers my husband worked with told me that too, like just keep going, keep learning, and you'll eventually click. So I don't know that I would start over again. Personally, I didn't, and eventually it clicked, and I understood what all the components, and I did not understand find object versus find component or get component. That took a long time for me.
You know what? Learning anything at all is the same. If you do something for like 4 weeks and then you don't do it for 6 months, you're going to have to go back to that initial 4 weeks to catch back up again. And I know it sounds really silly, but I will teach things in a course where I'm like, oh, I've taught this before, I've got no idea what I'm doing. How on earth does Cinemachine work? I've completely forgotten. I'll go watch
That's
one of
where I
my
am the
own
same way.
videos that I've created. I'm like, oh, that's how I do it. And then I'll go and teach because I've taught myself how to go teach it again. So if you're not in the context consistently, then you'll need to go back. So whether it's our courses or YouTube or reading books or watching watching fun videos or participating in game jams, you need to continue the conversation on an ongoing basis consistently, and then you'll build upon it, and you'll go from level 1 beginner to level 2 to level 3 to level 4. If you keep taking breaks, you'll go from level 1 to level 2 back to level 1 up to level 2 back to level 1. So if you want to learn and truly get better at it, you just need to stay in the conversation.
That's true.
For sure.
I took
I
off
also
some
want
time
to call
for
some people
Blender.
out because
Oh, what?
I want to call some people out because you know how many people
This
there are
one's
in
for
chat
me.
right now that own several of our courses, that bought them, that felt like they made progress when they bought them, but they didn't take them. They haven't started them. They haven't done anything. And it's a new year. It's 2023 now. It's the 23rd year after 2000, the new millennia. And it's time. I think it's time. Remember those New Year's resolution stuff? Remember you talking about learning game dev? Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Take the courses that you
Here's the
already
results.
own.
Oh, wait. I shouldn't
Do
have done
it.
that. Probably doesn't matter.
Make it happen,
Yeah, let's put
Captain.
it over here. We can look at it here. There we go. Is that my
Strupple.
login? I was ready for that.
Strupple.
So there are 11 plus. The only thing is when you have multiple courses, you can also look for things that you want to learn and find those, because a lot of our things are named the lessons. What are they called? I can never remember what they're called.
Can you scroll down a tiny bit, please,
specific-
Laurie? Your name's covering a
Scroll
thing for me
down.
to say. Just a
Oh.
tiny bit. Oh, yeah. Do we have 0 on there as an option?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
okay,
we
good.
did.
No votes.
I don't remember that person.
Good.
The person who made the poll, they left. I don't know where they went.
Oh, nice.
I would love to see how many courses they've done.
Yeah, how many of you completed? Well,
Did we come
yeah,
through?
I know. This is the thing. I've got a lot of things in my library, say my games library, Steam library, a lot of things I've bought but never touched. And I think there's a little bit of a, I might need it someday, philosophy when you buy things for learning, when you buy things for, someday, one day. And I think that's okay, so long as you're not in the habit of saying, I bought the thing, therefore I don't need to do the thing. Like if the game you're playing is just buying all the stuff, that doesn't make sense. You've got to actually be participating in some. So
Yeah.
it's a good question, Tim. How many have you actually done? But yeah, I think it's okay to have a couple that you haven't done, but not 95% of them. You can't own 10 things and have only looked at 2 minutes of it.
I will say there's like this psychological phenomenon where a lot of times if we buy something that we believe is going to help us make progress, we get the dopamine and the satisfaction of actually making progress. So
That is true.
just don't get stuck in that trap, because it's pretty common for people to just be like, oh yeah, I bought the course. So like, it's like the same thing, or it's like, you want to work out for the new year. So like you buy the treadmill and then you're like, okay, cool. Now we're good. Like, don't need to get on it. It's fine. It's sitting there. It's gonna work out.
Let's ask our community as well.
Poll. There's another straw poll I put in there.
Strupple.
What's this new one do?
What's this new one do?
I can't click on if I click on it, it shows it. I can't actually click on. You have to give us that link in Slack, I think, so we can actually click on it. Wow, look at that. Comedy hour. Nice.
Strupple.
Me?
Wait. That question didn't make sense. Hang on. Wait a minute. Let's analyze the question. It's like, do you want to have...
It makes sense.
Do you want to vote 0? No. I have 0 courses. You left me out.
So is that second one?
Yes? Is that second one yes?
Rick did data analysis for a long time.
I worked in consumer research for like 8 years, so I'm very. That should be next week's live stream. How to ask questions.
So much for not getting derailed.
Yeah.
Okay. So
get derailed?
2-0
one of the
so far.
things that came up a lot in the chat is people were saying, they're talking about motivation. They're talking about time between work and kids. It's talking about all kinds of stuff like this. So if we're talking about how to learn, part of that, I think, is being able to dedicate focused time to doing it, right? So what do you think are some strategies that we can give people to like help actually get the stuff done? Because as we saw, most people owned 11 plus courses. So it's clearly not the content that they're struggling with. It's doing the content and learning the thing that's going to be one of the struggles here. So any ideas?
I would say part of that, though, is because of like Humble Bundle and stuff like that, we get a lot of courses at one time. So even if like we were planning on just doing the Unity 2D and a Blender course, we still have a bunch of courses.
That's true.
Yeah. So you're talking about learning and time management. Well, I find this, you've got to be real. First, let's get real. Let's get real here. How much of it is I'm so busy, and how much of it is I find this difficult or scary, or it's much easier to watch Netflix in the evening than it is to go work on my stuff. And so I think you need to get real with yourself first of all. And it's a difficult conversation. I get real with myself all the time about this stuff. I'm like, I'm just bored with this stuff. I don't want to do it. It's difficult. I don't want to look dumb. It's hard. And so when I get into that frame of mind, it's not that I don't have enough time. It's that I'm choosing to fill up my life with other things so that I don't have to do the thing that I'm scared of or that I'm not enjoying. So I think that's the first real talk. And acknowledging there's a lot of people out there who genuinely, look, I just absolutely don't have the time. So I'm talking to the folks who maybe can push some things around to find the time, to make the time. That would be step one.
Yeah. I think another common thing that probably happens too is it's not so much just about the time, but it's about the mental and cognitive load that some of this stuff takes to learn. Right. And a lot of people, like if you've got a, job you go to every day, you wake up at 6 a.m., you get the kids ready, you go to work, you do all that stuff, you expend all your mental energy, you come home. Yeah, you got 4 or 6 hours, right? But like, do you have the mental energy to actually sit down and do the thing? That's a whole nother topic, right? Because that's not time allotment. That's like energy reserve. And one of the things that I would say to that, and this is just one of the things that I've learned, is generally the stuff that's super important to me, I like to do first thing in the morning. Like I'd like to make priority. I like to do it ahead of everything else. I like to give my best.
What time in the morning would you start, Tim?
Like 12 p.m. like around there.
You're a vampire. I'm interested how many people watching now are also vampires. We're like, yeah, my day starts at noon and then, I work until 6 in the morning. When you say early in the morning, do you mean like just before you go to bed early in the morning, or you mean when you wake up?
No, morning to me is relative to when I wake up. So it is morning after I wake up. That's how it works.
Yeah.
He did.
It throws me off when I wake up early.
5 in the morning or something.
Why is there so much sunlight? Like, what is this? It's been like 12 hours and it hasn't went down. Throws me off.
Daytime. Yes. That's good. When you're freshest, when you wake up, you've got the most energy, you're freshest, or like, well, maybe not when you just wake up, but when you're first getting started on your day. I think as well, like someone made a comment in chat that it feels like work. Absolutely. And if it feels like work, you've got to ask yourself the question, am I doing this for work? Am I doing this because I'm trying to make money out of it? Is it work, or is it supposed to be fun? Is it my hobby? Is it my the thing I do to improve myself that may one day turn into a career, but I'm just doing it because I like it? And if it feels like work, then you need to introduce your particular flavor of quirkiness to it. And the way I do that is I make stupid games. I make them funny. I think about, my character could be, I don't know, upside down and vomiting. That's how he, moves himself around. So that's my particular way of making it funny and silly and interesting for me to do it. Then when I'm learning about the code, it's in that context of something quirky and silly and dumb and stupid. So that might not be for everyone to do it that way, but, go get some rainbow unicorns and put them like just blop, there we go. Spend $5, $10, get some assets that you think are interesting, blop, drop them in there, and you're like, oh, now I'm moving around these things. And that's how you can make the process more engaging. If you're just working with cubes and code and it's droning on, then it can feel like work.
Yeah. But work can be fun. And like if you
another important sorry, Tim, I thought you're done.
I think our sync is off a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, make sure that you don't pile guilt on yourself if you're not doing it in the exact way you think you should do. And I think that locks up a lot of people, because my husband has like 3 things he wants to complete. He has a full-time job. He's very busy and he's working really hard. And it's like, I see the guilt and I'll be like, that's not going to help you get anywhere in anything you want to get done. You have to focus on like getting yourself in the right position for it. Maybe just do it for a couple hours on the weekend. Like in his situation, that may be all the time he has, but don't guilt yourself, because then you get stuck. You get locked.
Yeah. That emotional prison, I think, is why a lot of people fall off. Because what happens is they're like,
Yes.
okay, New Year's resolutions is a great example here, right? Because they're like,
I
yes,
don't
it's
do those. I
2023.
hate them.
Like, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
and it's fine. And like, you do really good for a few weeks, right? And then something happens where you miss a day. And then you have two
Yep.
options at that point. You could just like hop back on the train and just keep going. Or you can like get upset and like feel guilty and then just be like, oh, I'm a failure. Like I failed. I already broke the streak. There's no point in keep going. A lot of people go down that road and then they let one day or one mess up or, you know, whatever it is, they let that derail them completely. And they turn an event, a random event that happened, into a failure, right? And your brain, this failure is this big, huge thing that you're making a big deal. It's not. Like you could just jump back on it tomorrow. Like it's not a big deal. One of the things that I've adopted is with when I'm in the consistency mode and I'm trying to get something done daily or whatever, is like you never have 2 bad days in a row. So it's completely fine to miss a day. It's completely fine to skip a day if you're not feeling it, but you never do that twice in a row, right? So like the worst you can do is kind of every other day, if that makes sense. And that's kind of, that rule has helped me a little bit. And also not looking at stuff as there's not a real thing as like epic failure, right? Especially with like when you're just being consistent with a hobby, there's no such thing as like ultimate and total failure, but your brain can make you think that. So just like skipping past that and just like staying on the train, I think is important.
Yeah, and without getting too much into the personal development side of things, I find that in my own life, I need to have momentum in order to do the things that are more mentally draining or more challenging. So if you don't have time in your life, then it could be because you just don't have the energy. And so look at how you're doing in terms of your mental energy and your physical energy. And it could be that you need to get there and say, right, for the next month, I'm not even going to think about game development. I'm not going to try to learn new things. All I'm going to do is get up in the morning, half an hour earlier, and go for a walk around my neighborhood, listening. This is the secret that I found in my own journey is I go and walk or run to be active. Everyone can walk. If you have some sort of reason you can't, maybe you're wheeling yourself around, or maybe you've got mobility issues. There's a way to still be physical and do that. But put on your headphones and listen to motivational stuff. And there's tons. We don't need, that's for another live stream talking about all the different motivational stuff. But for me, I just go into YouTube. I type motivation. And then it's often, people screaming like, "Do make the most of your life," kind of stuff. But for me, that clicks, it resonates because they're making good points. And so I do that. And after my half an hour of walking, I come back, I'm like, okay, I've got a window of time now where I'm ready to go. And you get into it and you do your work. And then, eventually that will decrease. But you don't want to try to do that on day one. Do your walking, listen to your stuff, and start to build up a bit of anger towards the fact that you're not able to get your stuff done. That works for me. Like, oh, I really should do this. Oh, I'm wasting my life. Oh, it's really important. Oh, I've really got to go for it. And then after you've done that for long enough, you'll be ready. Things will start to click. You'll say no to the things that are getting in the way, and you'll say yes to actually doing the things that are most important for you. So get the ball rolling, get some motivation going.
On that too, there are plenty of studies that show that, like, especially in athletes, that like the athletes that do the best aren't the ones doing it for themselves or doing it for the money. They're doing it for like their mom, right? Or they're doing it for like some emotional reason that's bigger than themselves. And those are the people that usually they go farther than everybody because they don't let little things get in their way. And so if you find something like that, like whether it's, kids, wife, whatever, like whatever the thing is that just like, the bigger goal, the emotional goal that can make your body react to it, like that stuff works really, really well.
Totally. And I was going to recommend Atomic Habits before as a book, but Joel has pointed that out. Great book, Atomic Habits. Love it. Really good. It's just makes it tangible.
Someone said The War of Art too. That's a fantastic book.
Yep.
I like listening to motivational video game music. Not gonna lie, I'm not a motivational speaker kind of person. I'm a motivational music kind of person. It gets me going. That's what I listen to
Yeah.
before our meetings at work.
Really? So you can tolerate the
Our
meetings at
all
work.
hands, yeah, our
Yeah.
big group meetings.
Oh,
I want to
nice.
get going. I want to get
Yeah.
excited.
Good one.
You know, they say that, like, you're kind of the sum total of the 4 or 5 people you hang out with, like, a lot of times, and you know what I've found too is, like, that's not just for real life people, that's with, like, YouTube people too. Like, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
hang out
That
with
is true.
personalities that
Yeah.
are motivational or
Yep.
whatever it is, if they have energy, if they're, like, courageous, that stuff kinda drips into your personality a little bit, especially, like, the more time you spend with them, the more you watch their stuff, the more you can kind of absorb some of that stuff too. So, keep in mind, like, what you watch and what you kinda dive into and the rabbit holes you go to and the circles you're hanging out in, because that stuff, whether you like it or not, it kinda sponges into your personality and your psyche.
I think the
It's true.
elephant in the room for me sometimes is game development for leisure or for work? Is it equivalent of playing a game? Is it equivalent of watching Netflix? Is it equivalent of goofing around? And that's when I get blocked. If I'm talking about making games, a little bit different if we're talking about teaching people how to make games, because that is our day job. But when it comes to making games, if I look at it and say, why am I doing this? Am I doing it just to goof around? That's often when I get stuck, because then I've mentally put it into the same category as sitting there and just watching a movie. So I think you need to, if that's happening to you as well, if you're sitting there saying, well, is this really a good thing? It's just a hobby. I should be out there, hustling and doing my day job better or whatever, grinding. It's, if that's the conversation you're having, then you need to place it. You need to pick up that bucket that is game development and put it somewhere that represents you having a powerful life, you achieving what you want to achieve in life, you not wasting your life, you feeling good about yourself, and importantly, you developing your skills and abilities so that whatever, a year or 2 or 5 down the track, you're really good at doing the things related to game development that's going to help you in your career. For example, programming, problem solving, creativity, teamwork, publishing things, online marketing. There's all these things in game development that can help you be better at what you're doing, not just getting a job in the games industry, for example.
For sure. Missy Terry asked a question about streaming. What do you think about streaming while designing games? So let people see the progress you've done, and how do you think should react on feedback? Okay, so I've done streaming, and it was very motivational. Like, it helped me having the social kind of people check in with me, and like having that schedule, having to show up because other people are going to be there was helpful. But I will say that streaming is a completely different skill set, especially if you're doing programming, because you also generally have to entertain them or talk to them at least. If you're just streaming and you're not interacting with them, no one's going to come to your stream, and that kind of defeats the purpose, right? So it does take a lot of cognitive effort to do both at once: design a game and entertain a stream, and it's a completely different skill set than programming. So that's something to keep in mind.
Personally, what I'd recommend for people who are earlier in their journey is, rather than trying to stream to the public, and I personally find that a little bit, it's upsetting if no one turns up. You're like, why am I doing this? Rather than going down that path, when you're early days, find a streaming buddy, if you will. Find one person, and it could grow to 2 or 3 or 4, a little club where you work with some online, video sharing, Zoom or one of the other more room-based things. Gather, is that one of the, Gather, I think you have to pay for Gather, but and work at the same time together. And at the start, hey, what are you working on today? Cool. And then sit there, and you can hold each other accountable. If someone's sitting there like, wee, you're like, are you actually working on your game, or sounds like you're playing Call of Duty? What's going on? So I would
Do you make
start
those
by
noises when you play Call of Duty?
all the time. Yeah. Wee. So like find a work buddy, because that's ultimately what people are trying to do when they're streaming. They're trying to be held accountable by having someone watch and participate and care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to mention, you guys might
part,
not realize about, real quick, Tim, sorry, again.
That's
Discord.
You
can stream in our
You got robot voice going on.
Discord. What? Am I broken?
You got some robot voice. Wow. Whoa, that was awesome. Like you're actually, this is very entertaining. So your audio stopped, but then you kept talking even afterwards.
Can you not
It was
hear
like,
me? Can you hear me? No?
She's
Okay.
telepathic. It's amazing.
we
Say
can
what
hear
you're
you.
gonna say,
There's a
Laura.
big lag and you're a bit robot-y. So one of your kids, I think, might be playing World of Warcraft. Does anyone play that anymore? Do I need to get more updated references?
Fortnite,
Fortnite,
Roblox. That's what the kids are playing these days. I don't know.
Roblox, they make some money, don't they? Roblox. Where are they now? Like number 3 or something of all-time biggest game development money-making companies or whatever. It's
Stupid.
sneaky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho. So, yeah, Laurie, you're mostly it was robot voice.
Let me know when I catch up.
Who's saying?
Not yet.
Yeah, this is gonna be hard, so you might as well just say what you're gonna say.
Yeah. So I've seen some folks in chat today giving us some ideas on people on YouTube or other areas they like to learn from. So this is not just a, hey, GameDev.tv is everything. Where one part of your learning journey is the GameDev.tv courses. Who else do you watch that you like? Not just, oh, here's 20 people that I've watched, but that you truly learn from, that after watching their content, you feel smarter. So some people that we know that we've hung out with or worked on with courses, Jason Wyman, Code Monkey, who else in terms of, sorry?
Heartbeast.
Heartbeast, yep. Someone was mentioning Ryan before, Ryan Laley.
Jonas Tyroller, Thomas Brush, Blackthorn Prod. Learned a lot
Blackthorn
from those guys.
Prod, yep. Grant Abbott for Blender, that guy. Yeah. He's dreamy.
Yeah. I really like Splattercat Gaming too. Those aren't necessarily game dev videos, but he plays a new indie game every single day. And watching him play through new indie games every single day is super helpful.
Yep. Yep. Code Monkey.
Game Dev Underground. Stop it.
Game Dev Underground. No one actually. That's just you saying that. Tim Ruswick. Oh, more Tim Ruswick. Come on, you guys. Tim Ruswick. Stop it.
Stop it.
Dr. Penny. Yeah, Penny DeBill. Adam Eunice is a pixel artist. I believe he's an Australian. Now they're all flying in. Brackies, well, rest in peace.
Vimlark, yes. I don't forget about that. Vimlark's great.
Vimlark. Yeah.
Game Maker's Toolkit.
So, yeah, we've thrown out a whole bunch there and of names. You guys should post these names in here. Yes, we should.
Extra credits.
So
many.
I used to love Extra Credits, but I haven't enjoyed their work as much in recent times.
They've branched out a lot beyond game dev too. So a lot of it isn't game dev specific, but
yeah. Yep. So there's a lot out there. And, you know, I've wrestled with this conversation a lot in terms of, do you need, so for example, if you're there saying, you know, is my game going to succeed? Because there's already 50 other really great first person shooters. Why bother? I think it's the same when you look at, you know, should we make learning content? There's already 50 other great people out there. Should I start my stream? There's already, you know, thousands of people out there. Here's what I say to that is that people as consumers or community for your product want to have a variety of sources they draw from. So you don't want to just, you know, the only YouTube channel I ever need for the rest of my life is Brackies. Done. You know, for many reasons. One, it's Brackies is not there anymore. Well, it is, but he's not active anymore. But also, it's good to have different perspectives and different flavors and different approaches and not just have the one all the time. Also, you consume more content than that person's capable of creating. So I think it's good to try different things, try different people, try different lenses to look at it through and different flavors. That's in terms of if you're using that content to learn from. But if you're creating something, a game, you know, a Twitch stream or whatever it might be, then there's plenty of room for what it is that you're creating. Just be different and interesting and authentic, and you'll find people who are really interested in what you're talking about or creating or doing.
So
For
can
sure.
I try to talk, or are
I
we still
think
messed up?
one of the things too.
Oh no, we can
Am
hear
I
you,
live?
but your voice, your lips catch up about 5 seconds later. So it's actually really funny. I'm enjoying that.
Well, let me share my screen so it's not obvious.
Oh,
I
that's
just
the
wanted to show you this. I was talking about how you can
Okay.
stream in our Discord. This was in our Discord one night. There were 5 of us streaming, working, and it was very encouraging. I cut off the edges of it's not all the names and everything, but these were all 5 people streaming different things. Blender down here. Harvey was painting in Blender. This was painting.
Yep.
Wasn't me. Mostly Blender, but it was very encouraging, and it's very, you could just stream in Blender, ask people if they want to come look at you stream, or if anyone wants to stream with you at a certain time. It's a great way to find people to hang out with while you're working. And
That's a great, yeah. In my example before, I'm like Zoom, but why am I should be thinking Discord. I'm such a
Our Discord
absolutely
is
Discord.
great for it.
Yep. Yeah, and when you say our
you
Discord,
guys-
you mean the GameDev.tv Discord is the place to go?
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys
I'm
talking
scared
to
to
each
talk
other
now.
during all this, or
Yeah.
like you just like are watching each other's screens? Okay, cool.
We were voicing, yeah.
That's cool. And
Do we have a
they're
link?
friendly, right? Like anybody can join. Like you guys don't mind if people pop in. And it can be scary
No,
sometimes
it's
when you see
great.
people streaming and you don't know any of them, you know, to like pop
Yeah.
in and do that. So
No, we
I
had
think-
someone come in and do Unreal for a little bit. He was showing his
Mm.
kit bashing. It was really fun.
I think this is a challenge for the introverts out there, the people who are maybe working on their games on their own, feeling a little bit lonely, not sure how to connect with people. Like this is the least scary, simplest, most accessible way to connect with other people. I think that's a really great point, is go to the GameDev.tv Discord server, find one of those groups that are doing live, let's work on things at the same time. Just jump in. You don't have to talk a lot. You don't have to participate a lot. Just share your screen. Don't be all worried that, my stuff isn't good enough, because we're all learning in our own particular way. And no one's going to judge you. In our community, this is a cool thing about the GameDev.tv community, you're not going to be judged for, you're only just starting. That's terrible. You're not going to be judged for that, because we're all in that ballpark. So very tangible. Thank you for that, Laurie. That's an excellent, very tangible thing.
Yeah, during
people
that,
can do.
I tried to
your
do a
voice is
little
back.
character. I tried. Oh, is it? I was
Yeah.
covering it. I tried to do a little character, and I was like, I just can't do this. So I just switched over to something else and made something else, because I was like, I was too distracted and it wasn't working. Just do what you can do.
Yeah.
I found late at night, like watching Twitch streams while I'm working helps me feel like I'm not in the room alone. It's got some weird psychological effect. I totally see how actually hanging out with people in Discord could be.
Yeah, it's really
even if
nice.
everybody's working on their own things, I could totally see
And
how
now-
that could work out.
Yeah, one of the people follows me on Twitter. I follow them on Twitter. It's pretty great.
Yes.
How many followers you at, Lori? Were you
3.
on
I'm
Twitter?
101 now.
Oh, you made 100. Okay, cool. You did it. Congrats.
Yeah.
She was telling me she was at
101.
99 yesterday. It was driving
I'm
her
probably
crazy.
going to start a Steam page next.
Okay.
I am planning to do a Steam page.
It's a big
Might-
step.
So if you guys have any questions, you guys as in folks watching, have any questions that we haven't answered yet or got to, then chuck them in the chat and we will do our best to answer the questions. But I think building upon what you're saying, Laurie, it's really important that game development becomes your community, not just the bit of work you do after you finish your day job, so that you can make a thing and then show it with some people who would be interested in seeing it. Because I find in my household here, I'm like, I did a thing. My household is usually like, I don't know what that is. That looks dumb. Why are you doing that? And I'm like, okay,
It's
you
not
got
as
to
good as Fortnite.
you got a thing to jump. Like, I don't know. So actually, that's I was saying that to be dramatic, but that's actually not true. I've got a couple of young kids that love it when I show them those things, and then they just want to spend the whole time sitting on my computer. Like I did a car game thing, and now every time my youngest comes in, she's like, "Hey, you got that car game thing? Do you think I could play it for a while?" And it's just a little like sandbox prototype, but she loves it because it's like, I just drive around all day. So anyway, I was trying to make out that my family is evil, but they're pretty awesome.
This is something that I found with Unity. forgot more. It's a lot of work, especially when you want to get past the basics. I wasn't starting on my game because I feel like I don't know exactly. There's specific things that I feel like I should know so that I can do it right. And then I realized if I don't start, I'm not going to know what I need to learn. I'm not going to look it up as I'm going. It was
Yeah.
wasting my time trying to get to like an intermediate advanced level instead of just going with what I know and learning as I go.
Right.
So instead of getting past the basics, just start. Just start
Because
what you
you
need,
don't know
what
what
you
you
want to
don't
do.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, and a
You
lot of
learn
it
that along
actually
the
ends
way.
up not being like events in Unity. I feel like I'm still not using them. It's really not that big of a deal. I'm making a prototype game. I can do
Yep.
it. Just make a prototype and go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is another one I found. I just started exploring game development, and I wonder what point do you think it's a good time to start game jams? I would say your first game jam, you're going to be underprepared. There's no way to be fully prepared. It's completely different. I would say after you finish the 2D or the 3D Unity course, or after you've actually finished a course,
Yeah.
it's a good time to start. Like I said, your first game jam is going to be rough. You're going to get like nothing done. It's going to seem incomplete. But the point of that is not to make the next best AAA game in a weekend. The point of that is to like, crash course, learn a bunch of stuff, be prepared for the next one. So,
I would say Tim that the first game jam you do can be taking a project that you've worked on in a course and just remaking it slightly differently. Like, instead of jumping that high, double the height that you jump and make the platforms bigger and change the things that you know how to change at this stage. But don't try to make a new project. Don't try to come up with a great new idea. Just do the thing you've already learnt to do, just a bit differently. And then you don't have to stress so much about, I've got no idea what I'm doing.
For sure.
Yep. I've got a question here from Ryan Blank. Really burning question I wanted you to answer. 2D or 3D graphics? If I want low quality graphics that I need to easily manipulate or outsource them for changing. It's a good inquiry, and I think 2D games are easier. I'm in Unity brain space here at the moment. So, and Tim can give you a Construct 3 answer as well.
And I can disagree with you in Unity.
Awesome. I think 2D is easy if you want to be making the graphics yourself, because you can fire up your pixel program like Libre Sprite or A Sprite. Take a little bit of our pixel art course, and you can make your own pixel art graphics pretty easily. And then you can just make simple little 2D games where you're moving things around. In Unity, you can use the Unity physics system pretty easily. So it's straight, boom, you've got there, you go. But I think if you like manipulating 3D, then use 3D. There's no right or wrong. Neither of those two is necessarily the better low-hanging fruit. They both can be simple. And the answer to how do you, that's not the answer, but an answer is just go get an asset pack. Just go get an asset pack and boom, you've got it. Doesn't matter, 2D or 3D, just get an asset pack and you're off to the races.
Yeah.
You can at least start.
I mean, I think 3D is almost easier if you're going to go the asset pack route, because there's so much stuff out there and you can just kind of plop stuff in and move it around. 2D, I personally prefer 2D, but I like turn-based, grid-based strategy games, and so 2D works really well with those types of games. So I would say the genre is a consideration too, right? Because one of the cool things about 3D is you can change the camera perspective. In a 2D game, if you change your camera perspective, you have to change all of the art manually by hand, which is a pain. So if you need that flexibility, definitely go with 3D. It's going to save you a bunch of time. Even if it's a fixed camera, like you can do like isometric games really go well with 3D. And stuff like that too. So I don't think it's a stretch these days to start with 3D. I don't think 3D is 3 times as harder as 2D. I just think it's a different kind of technology these days, and you can learn it just as easy as 2D. I don't think you have to start with 2D and then go to 3D. It's not like a thing you step up to. I just think it's different.
Yeah.
Now, my opinion on the Unity thing is I started with the 2D games. And I thought they'd be easier. So I made a cute character. And then I realized I had to make idols. So I made the idol and the bouncing. And then I had to make the turning. And then in 3D, I create a character. and it's done. Even if I'm doing 2D, I still have a character that can turn or do this,
Yep.
and I can animate it. That's why I personally, I mean, I love Blender. I just took to it. I love it. But I find 3D is easier, and you can still make a 2D game with it, weirdly enough. You can
Yeah.
even make like pixels. So
Yeah.
if you're at all good with Blender, it's definitely worth looking at that, even if you want to make a 2D. But I did, to be clear, I did start with the Unity 2D course. That's what I learned.
Mm.
It's just that it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's just 3D.
Yeah.
Very similar.
So the answer is it doesn't really matter, 2D or 3D. Both of them, you're going to be just fine. Like there's no better
Yeah.
way of doing it, I don't think.
I would
Yes.
say if you're planning on learning art and you don't know whether you should go 2D or 3D, the workflow for 3D is very much kind of like a sculpting type of workflow where it's like you've got your hands on a cube and you manipulate the cube and you kind of change it into what you want. Whereas pixel art, you kind of have to draw it from scratch. And different brains work differently. Some people really like to manipulate a thing into what they
Yep.
want. Some people like to kind of dictate where the thing goes from the beginning. And your brain might take to one or two of those. So I would try them both and see which ones you like better.
Yep. Question from Douglas: is it best to work on several courses at a time or spend all your time on one and finish it, then move on? I would say it's best to finish a project and then move on. So most of our courses are project-based, where you can, work through a project, finish it, and then if you wanted to jump to one of the other courses and work through a project on that, that's cool. So maybe you work on a couple of courses, a couple of projects in the our Unity 2D course, and then you say, I'm interested in mobile. You go jump over to a mobile course, and then you're like, I'm interested in in something in 3D now. So, but you don't have to finish a course completely. But I also wouldn't have a couple going at the same time. I personally also wouldn't be learning, say, Unreal and Blender at the same time. I would spend a couple of weeks on Unreal, then a couple of weeks on Blender, a couple of weeks on Unreal, a couple of weeks on Blender. It's better to say spend 6 months on Unreal and really get into it and then be doing some Blender. But if you're the sort of person who wants to bounce around, I wouldn't bounce around daily personally. But, it's not saying you can't. Maybe you spend your mornings working on programming and your afternoons working on art. That's totally fine as well. There's okay, so what I'm saying is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just do it however you want. But
It
the
depends on your
more
brain.
you spread your attention, I think the less well you're going to learn.
So for reference, our Unity 3D course has got the obstacle course project.
Ooh, I
It's
did
got a
that one.
Project Boost project.
I did not
It's
finish
got
that one.
Argon Assault. It's got Realm Rush. And it's got Zombie Runner. Those are 5 completely different games that you make from scratch that all teach you Unity, but they're kind of in different varying stages of difficulty.
Yep.
So when he says projects, he's just talking about working through building that one game in that engine. And if you start the next one, it's cool to start from a completely new project because it'll cover some of the basics over again.
Yep. Okay, let's take another couple of questions before we wrap it up.
Oh, here's an important question. In honor of the new year, I'm going to do that. I'm doing it.
Ask Tim. I keep advocating for it, and he's like, "That's
On a
dumb."
scale of 1 to 10, how
0.
likely is a Draggy Dog game jam this?
Below 1. It should be a scale of 0 to 10, honestly, because it's a 0. I don't think 1 to 10 is fair because technically that's 9 numbers.
You know what I would say to that?
Nice
Every
things.
game jam is a Draggy Dog game jam, if that's what you want
That
it
is-
to be.
That's called
That is
sabotage.
true.
And that's not fair.
That is
because
true. Every dag. Yeah, you can. I should just do that from now
I
on.
did that for our game jam last year. I made a
I
Draggy Dog
should.
game.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Just have the theme, Draggy Dog, and whatever the other theme is, put them together.
Yeah, exactly.
Good practice.
May of 2023, we're going to do
It
our
may
game
or may
jam.
not happen.
It will happen.
Yeah, I was thinking, who's
May.
May?
The month of May, you smarty pantses. Okay, what else we got here? What
May
other
the
questions
odds ever
before
be in your
wrap it up?
favor.
Looking through the questions.
Oh, here's a good point too. And I did use this. Let's see. Oop, I lost it. It was someone saying they lost game jam work because, here it is. Because of GitHub not using Git, I think. Yeah. And that is something I learned when one of my projects crashed and I didn't know how to fix it. I probably wasn't even anything that was difficult to fix, but I didn't know how to fix it. And then I went right to our Git course. I literally bought it that day and went through it and started using Git. And I just had it happen the other day. I was posting in our Discord. I messed something up. I still know what it was. I didn't have to figure it out because I had just used Git, went back to it. So I would say that's one thing you should do in 2023 is start using Git appropriately a lot.
Yeah.
I use it like
free
a save.
and
I use it like a save. Just finish
Yeah.
the boat. So like if I finish that, then I can just go back to it if I mess up like I did the other day. And I was like, you guys, I don't know what I did. Oh wait, I can just roll back. I'm fine.
Yeah. It can seem a lot scarier than it is too. It's not that scary once you understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. And an
I still
hour or
don't
two of
understand it, but
like
I use it.
give yourself an afternoon or a morning of figuring out Git.
That's what I
You know,
did.
we use GitLab nowadays rather than GitHub, but you know, between GitLab, SourceTree, and well, that's it. GitLab and SourceTree are the two.
I won't admit, yeah, I use GitKraken because that's what was available. SourceTree was messed up with their validating when I tried to use it, so I used GitKraken, and now I'm stuck with that because I still don't know what's happening with the Git stuff, but I'm going with it.
Yeah,
they all have visual
I'm
interfaces
not gonna
nowadays
force
too.
myself to learn. Yeah, I'm just going on, and I'm not gonna take the time to relearn some other thing. It's just fine.
You don't have to do some creepy command line stuff these days. You could just,
just click a button. Yeah,
you're way cooler if you use a creepy command line, but
no, you know.
So yeah, I think we go through SourceTree in that, and now the SourceTree is working again. It really wasn't working that time I downloaded it, and I said I was using GitKraken, but now it is.
I used GitKraken for ages. I liked it more, but it started to get wonky and buggy as well. So yeah,
it is not as good. But I mean, wait,
SourceTree. Yeah. Question here. How do you get people to leave reviews on prototypes released on itch? I released a free one and got 100 downloads and some downloads, but no reviews.
That's a lot.
How do you get reviews on itch? Well, I guess you ask people for it. You make something that's review worthy. Tim, any other thoughts?
Welcome to the wonderful world of marketing.
Marketing.
The fun subject everybody likes to talk about that they classify as something that happens after the game is done, when in reality it should be done.
We should do marketing workshop again. I think it's nearly been a year since we did the last one.
It's been more than a year. Yeah.
Has it?
It was 2021 we did that.
Oh boy. That's like 3 years ago. Dang.
That's a long time ago. Yeah, we should do a marketing workshop. It's not, there are various different ways to get people to leave reviews and stuff. The best way on itch is to make sure your game is tagged properly because there's a good discovery tool there. If you get content creators to cover your game, you'll get a big influx of people doing that. You can post devlogs and they'll show up in the devlog sections, which gets you more views. Yeah, I think if I show my itch right now, actually, we can see.
What about a pop-up that asks for them? I don't really know, but what, like in the game specifically, like, hey, can you make sure you review this because I need feedback? Can you email me here with feedback? Is that a good idea or no?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that if you're getting traffic, right? If you're getting downloads, but you're not getting reviews. But usually when you're not getting reviews, it also means you're not getting traffic, right? And I would also say that you said you got 100 downloads. I would just remind you that like the percentage of people that leave a review is probably less than 1%.
So low.
So getting 100 downloads and no reviews is actually perfectly normal. Like there's nothing wrong. There's nothing broken with that.
It's also a question of why do you want reviews? Do you want it for feedback or do you want it so people see the reviews and then like you're trying to do it as social proof, people saying, oh, this is good, because it might not be good yet. So maybe that's why people aren't leaving reviews. You don't want them to leave a review which is this is only half done and it's garbage, because then other people might see that. So, but if you're wanting feedback, then that's a bit different. You can ask people, please leave comments, please leave feedback, please contact me directly. You ask your friends, jump into our GameDev.tv Discord and you know, hey, can we trade? You play mine, I'll play yours. We'll give each other feedback. So,
yeah.
Yep. Were you showing something, Tim? You mentioned something about showing something, but then
yeah, I don't really know what I was going to show, but I can just show that like in my itch. So this is my itch account.
Oh, yeah.
I've made a bunch of games. Got a bunch of stuff here, and like I get views just by nature of having games out there, right? Because they're tagged different ways. I've got my profile. So one of the ways is, you know, you can decorate your stuff and make it look pretty, right? So people can find stuff easy. You also can do the same thing to your page. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in making your pages, right? So if your page is just blank and white, you know, it's not always the easiest to do stuff with.
Who is
The
that
other
guy at the
thing
bottom of that page?
He's Tim's
I don't
younger
know who that
brother.
is.
He's about
That
15
guy
years
doesn't
younger.
have a
okay.
beard. I don't know who he is. But one of the things I want to point out on itch too is like right here is popular tags, right? So the way people find games on itch is usually here, featured, but then they usually click one of these tags, right? And then this goes straight to like the top horror games. So if you have a horror game and it's not tagged with horror, you're missing out on all this traffic right here. And this gets a lot of traffic, especially around Halloween. Like all the YouTubers do the indie game horror stuff. So this is what I was saying about tags specifically. And then the other thing too is HTML5 games. You see how this is a featured tag. The reason this is here is because when people click on these, they can play the game directly in the browser. So you want to improve the amount of people that leave reviews and play your game, like have it playable right in the browser. Like you can just click a button and you can run it right there. I'm not going to do that because I don't play horror games because no. But yeah, those are some random itch tips for you.
Nice.
Another thing to be prepared for is like what was mentioned here. Someone left a review that said the game is a perfect combination of boring and too difficult. I feel like game developers might be a little meaner, but like also be prepared for like I got a 4 out of 5 review one time for my embroidery and it was like everything's perfect, it's great, my boyfriend loves it. 4 out of 5. So you have to be careful looking too much into reviews because a lot of times people are either like this really mean or they're not giving you any information.
I got a review
just
on
review.
Phonophobia. I got a review. It said, this game is great, but it was 100% positive and it shouldn't be. Downvote. So they ruined my 100%. And I was just like,
so they literally were downvoting you just
after they said the game was great. And I was just like, what? We found out that guy had a Twitch stream and I hung out with him for like 2 days. And I just asked him as he was playing the game, I'm like, do you think the game's good? Do you think it deserves a good review? He changed his review. Maybe I was a little stuck.
I see that on Rotten Tomatoes, actually. Movies that get good reviews, people make up reviews that aren't even realistic. Like, go read it, and it's like, this isn't even about this movie, but they want it to be a bad review because everyone else reviewed it positively.
Makes no sense.
People are crazy.
But
yeah,
that's one thing I learned.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Cool. So I think that's all, most of the questions, and we've run out of time. So to wrap up what we've been talking about today, talking about learning in 2023, make sure you're consistent, make sure that you have the energy up, make sure you know why you're doing it. The tools and all the hype that you're going to hear this year about AI, use it as a tool that helps you do things a bit quicker, but don't stress that it's going to make game development obsolete because it's just not. And focus on the things that you enjoy doing. Don't turn this into a job if it's not your job. Like, make it enjoyable. Allow it to bring joy to your heart if that's what game development is for you.
Yeah.
So rock and roll. Cool. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Laurie. Lovely hanging out with you guys as always. Thanks everyone who's watching today or watching in the future. And we will see you all during our next live stream. Tim, is that going to be next week or the week after?
Oh, put me on the spot here. I don't know, but it'll be scheduled in the Discord, and so keep an eye out for that.
Check out our Discord to know when the next one's coming up.
Yeah,
coming up.
And also streaming our Discord.
Yeah, and they can join your streams, right? They can come hang out.
Come see our Discord. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, cool.
Avocado fire. Nice. See you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Da, 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 da.
That's nice of you to invite everybody, Laurie. Come hang out. So it's nice of you to invite everybody to hang out.
I didn't never post the link. I noticed Wolfie had to do it.
Yeah, come join me in my stream. It's a secret where it is. That sounded a bit like what you're saying.
GameDev.gg, Discord.gg/GameDev.tv. All one word. Boom.
Well, look at him.
Have a good night, everybody.